We begin today with latest developments in the death of Suzanne Morphew and the case against her husband, Barry Morphew. It was back in a Colorado courtroom today. Once again, he was charged with her murder.
It is the first time he's been in court for his wife's murder since April of 2022. 9 News reporter Evan Krugel listened to his hearing in Alamosa County.
Yeah, Sam, it's been more than 3 years since prosecutors dropped their first case against Morphew just days before that trial started. Today, he was back in court facing new charges in Suzanne's death. Morphew appeared in a small courtroom in Alamosa County. You can see him smiling walking into the courtroom wearing an orange and white jumpsuit. We also saw one of his daughters there walking into the courthouse. Now, Morphew was extradited back to Colorado after being arrested in Arizona last month. Prosecutors believe he killed his wife before burying her in a shallow grave in Saguache County. 7 days before he was set to stand trial back in 2022, all charges were dropped against Morphew. But the setup allowed for charges to be filed again if new evidence came to light. And that's what prosecutors say has happened here. They now claim they have evidence Morphew used a tranquilizer normally used on animals to kill her. The indictment claims Morphew was the only private citizen in that entire area of Colorado with access to that drug. Morphew's attorney says he maintains his innocence. Morphew is being held on a $3 million bond. He's due back in court September 2nd. In the studio, Evan Krugel, 9 News.
This case really, you need almost a book to explain what's happened here, Evan, because the previous DA was removed from office and it's very complicated. But I think a lot of it seems to be centering on this new evidence that was part of the autopsy and what was found in Suzanne's bones.
Yeah, so many twists and turns here. Keep in mind, they didn't actually find her body until 2023, long after these initial proceedings had happened. So certainly lots of twists and turns along this journey. Today, the start of the latest one here in Colorado.
All right. Thank you, Evan. Breaking news this hour, the jury in the Sean Diddy Combs case has reached a partial verdict. Today was the second day for deliberations. Combs is facing 5 separate counts. About an hour ago, the jury said they reached a verdict on 4 of the 5 counts. They were unable to reach a consensus on the racketeering charge against him. Both the prosecution and defense said they want the judge to push the jury to continue deliberating. This trial has lasted weeks, months. The jury will return tomorrow morning to deliberate the racketeering charge.
Well, let's take a live look outside. July is here. It's bringing some summer heat with it, and we got back into the 90s today, but we could get some rain in the next few hours. So let's go ahead and check in now with meteorologist Chris Bianchi. Do you see rain coming in? Is it going to be a big storm or something that's just going to hopefully just make my grass look greener?
Not too much optimism, unfortunately, for you, Sam, in terms of helping that greener grass. Or we're not going to be talking about a big storm, but maybe a brief gusty storm. I was actually just outside of the 9 News backyard about 15, 20 minutes ago. You may, if you're joining us from Denver, have felt a brief rush of wind. That is the outflow from these showers and storms as they die off, as they try and move their way into the Front Range. But there's a lot of dry air at the surface that is killing off a lot of these storms before they can really drop down to the I-25 corridor. So statewide, few hit or miss, slow-moving showers and storms. A lot of those concentrated in the San Juans right now. Want to take a closer look in here at the foothills. Boulder, you had a close call with a thunder shower about a half hour ago. That storm has fallen apart. But if you look a little further north, up by Estes Park, we do have a storm moving its way through the Estes Park area and up by Rocky Mountain National Park. Looks like some small hail up there at Rocky as well, so not the time to be doing some hiking there at Rocky Mountain National Park, no doubt about that. Meantime, Fort Collins, those skies looking pretty ominous for our friends here in northern Colorado. We'll have 1 or 2 of these storms, but again, we just don't have the low-level moisture to get a big storm or anything more than a brief downpour for us here. This is the part of the state I'm going to be keeping my closest eye on over the next few hours. Logan, as well as Washington, Yuma, Sedgwick, and Phillips counties. That's where you have the highest potential for severe weather as we head over the next few hours. I'll explain why and take a look at that forecast for you in just a few minutes.
Thanks, Chris. New developments in the upcoming murder trial for the man accused of killing 4 University of Idaho college students.
We first brought you this story, breaking news yesterday. A plea deal has been reached that would take the death penalty off the table for suspect Brian Coberger. NBC's Liz Kreutz has more.
Well, hey there, this is a huge development in a case that has just captivated the country. And if this plea deal happens, it would mean that that much anticipated trial doesn't actually happen. And what was supposed to last several months could now be wrapped up in just a few weeks. We are hearing from some of the victims' family members who tell us that they are outraged by this potential plea deal. They feel like it means Coberger won't face their idea of justice, the death penalty. Now, according to the Idaho Statesman, prosecutors sent the victims' family members a letter detailing what this potential plea deal would entail, which essentially seems to say that if Coberger pleads guilty to the 4 murders of those University of Idaho students, that then he would face life in prison, but not the death penalty. We do know that family members have said that they are attending a hearing here tomorrow morning at the courthouse where this will be discussed, and this comes after a series of legal setbacks for Coberger, including his defense's attempt to get the death penalty thrown out. The judge also ruling against allowing the defense's attempt to introduce alternative perpetrators into this trial. This all comes 2.5 years after those 4 University of Idaho students were murdered. And again, this just another stunning twist in a case that has lasted so long. Back to you.
Today, President Trump visited the new immigration detention center in Florida named Alligator Alcatraz. Its construction has attracted hundreds of protesters in recent days. They say the center will threaten the Everglades ecosystem. The center is expected to house 5,000 detainees starting as soon as later tonight. According to Homeland Security data, around 58,000 people are currently in ICE custody nationwide. More than half have no criminal convictions or pending charges. Also today, we are following the status of President Trump's big, beautiful spending bill. Today, Vice President J.D. Vance broke a tie in the Senate to pass the bill. It came after an all-nighter by senators, 27 hours and 48 amendment votes. The bill extends President Trump's 2017 tax cuts and cuts Medicaid and food stamp programs to increase military spending and border enforcement. The bill now heads back to the House tomorrow. President Trump is still wanting it on his desk by Friday.